That's the cylinder there, which is the number 3 cylinder. Okay.
Yep.
This is timing shaft, timing end.
Yep.
Right, that's your piston that's come out of it. Okay,
Yep.
so it will normally fit it in there like that. Okay.
Yep.
That's the return side of the piston. That's the thrust side of the piston.
Okay.
So as we've got damage to the bottom end of the skirt.
Yeah.
Okay. Your oil control ring, which is the one at the bottom, which moves quite freely.
Yeah.
Or it's not broken. That's a compression ring, and that's a compression ring.
Yeah.
Okay. So when an engine is put together, or when a piston is actually inserted, that's the gap between the piston ring, which allows it basically to be fitted to go over the top of the piston itself.
Yeah.
All right. When it's compressed, when the compressor's up, as you can see, it probably
Yeah, it pushes
right
together.
up, okay?
Yeah.
When you fit a ring, what you mustn't have is the two lined up like that. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Because basically, when that's together like that, what you'll end up doing is having compression lost in between the two gaps.
Right. Okay.
So you always make sure that.
Do they turn them 180? Do they?
Yep. Make sure they're offset from each other.
Yeah.
Okay, like that. So the one's around that side. As you can see,
Do they work their way round over time?
No. They won't rotate. They shouldn't rotate. All right. And then, as again with the oil ring, you've got one gap there. Okay. Because the oil ring is in 3 pieces basically. You've got the spring centre. You've got the piece at the bottom and then the one on the top. Okay.
Yep.
And then the other one. Where's the other one? There's the other one there. Look. See that one there?
Okay.
Also, again, they're set up where they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
The actual bore, if you look at the bore itself, as you can see, there is a certain amount of scoring on the inside of the bore.
Okay.
Right, which is where the wear marks as a comparison on the side of the piston.
Yeah.
Okay. What that is actually allowing you to do, if that piston is running square to the bore, then the bore, although the bore is round, it stays round. Okay.
It doesn't change the shape of it.
Doesn't
or anything.
change the shape of it, because that piston is then running square to the bore. Okay.
Yeah.
If the piston tips, that's an exaggeration,
Yeah.
as I've got it now, then that affects the positioning of the piston in relation to the bore. It then gives you a false ovality of the bore. Although the bore is not oval, by simply turning the angle of the piston, it then creates an ovality between the piston and the bore.
Which is what's been happening.
Which is what we suspect has been.
So it wasn't, because obviously, if I kind of look, so basically you've got bottom dead centre,
Yep.
top dead centre,
Yep.
and a piston shouldn't go that way or that way. It should go that way or that way.
Yeah, it should basically go up. What's happening on thrust is that's just the thrust side. What's happening? The compression pushes down on the piston, so the piston tilts.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's tipping, going down, and then on the return, it's tipping and coming back up
Okay.
in the opposite direction. What it's then doing, it's allowing oil to come up past the rings,
Yeah.
leaves a film of oil on the return side and also the thrust side of the bore itself.
Yeah.
Then when the piston actually comes back up, it's then collating that oil into the top.
It's pushing it up.
It's collating it into the top of the combustion chamber.
Yeah.
Okay? That is then ignited with the fuel.
Yeah.
It's then turning to carbon.
Yeah.
On the exhaust stroke, that carbon then is being pushed back out through the top of the engine or through the exhaust valve.
Yeah.
Okay? That is then being coated onto the stem of the exhaust valve,
Yeah.
and on the back of the exhaust valve, then you have the situation where the valve is trying to close, but it can't close properly. So if it can't close properly, then what it does, it then can't dissipate its heat. It's generated from the gas or the hot gases that's going out through the cylinder from the firing, and eventually it'll just get too hot and it'll just burn the edges off.
Yeah, so like valves, like in their report, these cowboys,
Yep.
they're kind of saying, well, it's fuel, and the valves just burned out. Valves don't just burn out. This takes time. This takes a long time to happen. And obviously with the loss of oil, that's where the oil's been going, around, carbonising, around the valve.
The oil has been coming up through the cylinder. Okay?
Yeah.
If you look on the outside.
There's no
edge of
doubt
that,
about that, is there?
No, that it's when the piston was still attached to the crankshaft, or we rotated the engine.
Yeah.
As the piston went down,
Yeah.
you could see a film of oil being left on both sides of the cylinder bore.
Yeah.
Okay, you can actually physically put your finger into it and wipe it, and it was coming off an oil residue on your finger. You could actually see the build-up like a drip on the end of your finger.
Right.
Okay, by doing these other three, you never had that same issue.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's proven that the oil was actually being burnt in that one cylinder. It's not being burnt in the other three.
So, how did this bloke come to this conclusion?
I've no idea. Honestly, don't know.
I don't. So yeah. So basically, it's not the oil control ring that failed, or the 2 compression rings, is it?
No.
It was the actual piston itself moving about in the.
Yes, that's what's causing.
So the rings haven't failed.
Nope.
It's just
Nope.
the way the piston's been going up and down.
What you can have over a period of time is sometimes you'll end up with having a oil control ring or a compression ring. They'll actually jam closed due to carbon buildup actually on the side of the piston itself.
Yeah.
That tends to be more of an older vehicle that's done at like new miles,
Yeah.
rather than something that's done 40,000 miles.
Yeah.
Okay, but they're free. They're moving nicely. We haven't had any issues to try and force them around or whatever. That is basically how they were when we took them out. If you look at the edges of the pistons itself, there's very, very little carbon buildup on the side of there, which is indicating that it's been actually pulling oil up past it. If I pull some of these other ones out, it's all built into the crankshaft at the moment, so I haven't taken those out. You will probably find that around the top edge of here, you will have a small build-up of carbon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense because it's burning. Because obviously,
Yes, because but not only that, it's going backwards and forwards all the time. So therefore, every time it's going down and coming back up, it's getting fresh oil.
And
So
it's burning more and more
burning more
and
and
more
more, yeah.
on the top of the piston,
Yes.
not just around the valve.
No,
with the valve
it's
seated.
got to burn.
Yeah.
That's your crown of your piston basically.
Yeah.
Okay. So when on a normal stroke, that piston will be going down.
Bottom dead centre.
Beyond going down to BDC,
Yeah.
what it would do on the downward stroke, what it will be doing, it'll have the inlet valve open. It'll suck in your
That's right.
air and your fuel ratio. Okay.
Induction compression,
Ignition.
power up.
Ignition, exhaust. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So then the piston will then start to come up top dead center, which is your compression choke, compression stroke. Just after TDC, it will fire.
Yeah.
Okay. If it fires before TDC, you'll get a knock.
Okay.
All right. Basically, what it will do is firing before the piston has reached top dead centers. Therefore, you're trying to force the piston down before it's actually rotated over its maximum height before it starts going down.
Right.
So you want it to fire just slightly over the top of its maximum height, and then it'll be forced back down. Okay. That's the power stroke. So it'll be going back down with both valves closed.
Okay.
All right. As it gets reached to bottom dead center, your exhaust valve will then open. The piston will then return up, and that's your exhaust stroke. And what it's then doing is pushing out all the spent exhaust gases that you've just from the firing out through the exhaust valve. Okay.
Yeah.
So by doing that, it is then pushing the carbon. You will get a small amount of carbon burning from the fuel in the system, in the cylinder itself. But what's exacerbating it is the fact that you've got a large amount of oil in there as well. That is burning as well, and that is what's deposited itself on the back of the valve.
Yeah.
And that's what's causing the problem.
So it's been doing it not just to the valve, but to the top of the piston also.
Yeah, you've got carbon buildup.
Can you see the car? Yeah. So if I look at the other, I mean, they all look black, don't they? But
Yeah, you've got carbon on there, but if you look on the outer edges, you've got washing. Can you see how clean that is?
yeah,
Yeah, in comparison to those there. Yeah,
yeah. So that's been over lubricated.
it's burning, and what's keeping it clean is the oil that's coming past the piston.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Another thing I'm amazed an engineer that's come out has not picked up on.
wasn't really interested in when you looked at it. Wasn't
No.
interested at all.
No. Okay.
But as it stands at the moment, that engine doesn't lend itself for any repair whatsoever. That is now scrap. There's nothing you're going to be able to do with that at all.
Right, so you can't change the piston, you can't put a new head gasket on it, can't put a new valve in it,
It
can't
is
put a new tensioner on it.
Due to the fact how far that engine has been stripped. Okay,
Right.
it is not a viable option to go down that, because simple reason so many parts have been stripped off that engine now, and that engine has been stripped basically back to initial assembly.
Right.
There is no way that I could be able to put a warranty on that engine to say that, yeah, that engine's perfectly okay for the next 12 months.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I cannot say that there is no ovality in that bore caused by the piston, because if you've got a piston going up and down, its piston is worn,
Yeah.
it's also going to wear its corresponding component that it's against.
It's going to wear the cylinder, wear into that.
It's wearing the bore, the bore itself.
Yeah.
Okay. So there is no way that you'd be able to put that back.
And you'd need a bore kit to check if it was.
You'd need you use what you call an internal micrometer.
Okay.
Okay. But it's not very accurate.
Okay.
It's not very accurate.
Right.
It's very difficult to do because of the size of the bore itself. You would need to put the micrometer inside, set it up. Bear in mind, you need to get your hands in there as well, and then you need to rotate it round to find out whether you've got a larger gap or a smaller gap, which will indicate the ovality in there.
Right.
Okay. But as in regards to, we know that cylinder's been burning oil. We know it's been burning it for quite a while. It's burnt quite a lot of oil on it. It's not worth even thinking about trying to.
And are we right? Am I right in saying that problem that's happened, obviously with the piston moving, that would be a fault from manufacture?
I can't say how long it's been there, how long that fault's been there.
It shouldn't have been there from the beginning, though, should it? Like you said,
that fault's not been there from day one.
it hasn't.
No.
Right. Okay.
That's not
So
been there
how
from day
does
one.
that? What takes place? How has it failed in order to get to where it's the place it's got now, where it's moving across the cylinder?
The only thing I can possibly say it's the piston itself would have been the first thing to wear because it's aluminium. Okay, so therefore it's softer than the steel.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Ali will wear first, but Ali can also wear steel. It'll work both ways.
Yeah.
Okay. The skirt, there's a plate on the side of there. You can't feel much of it, but that's basically your guide to be able to make sure that that piston stays upright all the time when it's working. All right.
Yeah.
You will get a certain amount of tip because you can't have an interference piston into a bore. Bearing in mind when the engine gets hot, this expands.
Yeah.
Steel expands as well, but aluminium will expand quicker and faster than what the steel does. Okay, so when you've got, if you look at that piston there, you can still see that. You can see there's a very small amount of movement there, backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
You just see there,
Micro.
Yeah. It's a small amount of movement. That one there, when that one was in there, there's quite a lot of movement in there, backwards and forwards. Okay.
Yeah.
So the piston is the initial cause.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would say the pistons is the initial cause. It will have damaged the bore as well,
Yeah.
but not to a certain extent where you can actually see physical scrape marks up and down it. It's
No.
more wear than anything else.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You can see a film on that. Yeah. So this isn't what they've deemed in the report. This isn't wear and tear, is it?
No, it's mechanical failure.
It's mechanical failure.
Yeah.
Definitely mechanical failure.
Yeah.
Okay.
At the end of the day, that if you've got an oil burning issue with an engine, why have we only got one oil burning issue on one cylinder and not on all four?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They'd go together, wouldn't they?
Well, if you're going to have engines nowadays, you go back 25, 30 years ago, 80,000 miles, and you were pushing it on an engine. Engines used to come out, they used to get new liners, new pistons put back in, and they rebuilt back on the road again. Yeah, you got engines now that do 200, 300,000 miles.
Diesel ones, though.
Yes,
really.
yeah. But even I'm back in my Rover days. We had one lady bringing in a 216 with a Honda engine in it, a D16 Honda engine in it. That was serviced or oil changed on those every 6,000 miles. That was their stipulation on that particular engine.
6,000.
Every 6,000 or 6 months, oil and filter change on that. All
Right.
So you'd have interim service, which is an oil and filter change, and then you'd have every 12 months you'd have the normal standard change.
Yep.
So that was kind of service. That vehicle had done 235,000 miles, and she was quite happy carrying on driving it. She loved the thing. Unfortunately, the truck went up the arse end of it and broke it.
Killed it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But other than that, there was no reason why that engine couldn't carry on doing it. It could carry on. Yeah.
Yeah. So we like Amy's not to blame in this instance for
No,
for that.
she hasn't done anything wrong.
No.
She can't have done anything wrong.
Could the
She's not
previous
drove-
owner have done something wrong?
No.
So it's not like they're saying, oh, it's
not-
wrong fuel being put, the bad additive of fuel being put in it,
Nope.
or it's been hammered.
Nope. Nope.
It's just literally given up the ghost.
If you've got an engine that's been abused, excessive revving or whatever, why have we still only got one fault on one piston, on one cylinder? Why haven't we got it all across everything else? Yeah.
One would go though, if you hammered something, it might just be a case of one of those being objective, maybe.
But you would see if you've got an issue, what we've got with an oil burning issue.
Yeah.
If you're going to mistreat an engine, then you're more than likely you're going to start seeing a burning process all the way across all four cylinders, not just on one cylinder.
So if you hammer a wagon and you kind of, causing damage, it will cause damage to all four or all three, whatever the case may be with those cylinders.
Yeah, if you got a again, depends on how you drive it. You drive according to what you've got. I took a Vivaro up to Ipswich with a trailer on. I didn't go above 2,000 RPM with that engine all the way up and all the way back again. If you're going up a hill, drop down to 1,500 RPM, drop it down a gear, bring it back up.
Yeah.
Nice easy. You don't over rev an engine. You don't need to over rev an engine. The engine
Not today's engines,
no,
anyway.
it'll just carry on pulling you.
Yeah.
You just use your gearbox. You drop it down the gearbox, bring it up, 1,700, 2,000 RPM, and she'd hold all the way. Bear in mind, I come back with that traffic on the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I want to fetch. So you drive the vehicle as you drive it. Yeah.